everyone, Joe here. Welcome to Genderqueer Chat. This week we're discussing, I'm just going to arrange that. And look what I found, some daylight on a crappy December day. And actually, I don't know if you can see this right behind me, this thing, it's backwards. That's actually called a daylight. That's the brand name of it. It's that big square or rectangular thing that you sit under for like 20 minutes in the morning, and it's supposed to jazz you up. And I've had a hell of a December. I slept for 11 hours last night. I got home from work, fell asleep at 7:30 at night, and woke up at 6 this morning. So December is whooping my butt. But I think I'm back in the land of the living. Stanley's here. Hi, Stanley. There were a couple things I wanted to mention just before I proceed with this week's topic, which was I wanted a quick shout out to Fembot. I can't remember her name. It's Jess from the previous incarnation. She was a former member on Genderqueer Chat. Jess was awesome. She left me a message a few weeks ago when we were talking about traveling, and I had mentioned in one of my videos that I had no problems crossing the border, and she said something. I wish I had my computer here. You know what? I'm going to go get it because it's worth repeating. Hold on. Okay, yeah. Jess's screen name is Fembot1771, and she said, I agree. The Israeli system seems so much better. Okay, I might humbly suggest that you aren't considering the role that certain privileges, whether you like them or not, are playing in the ease with which you cross the border. And I actually I thought, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? Of course, responded to her point, very well taken. You are 100% right, and I'm glad to be reminded of it. I remember, so I'll just read to you what I wrote. I remember looking around my messy car laden with computer parts from a day's work and wondering if the guards would even ask me about it. They didn't. Whilst a car full of fully attired Muslims, which probably is the wrong term, but the guy had like the little hat on, and he had on the long robe, like the long tunic, and the woman had a veil on. Their car was being torn apart 1 aisle over, so thanks for the reality check. I just want to say that because I forget. I'm white, able-bodied, visually cisgendered. You know, my passport matches. You know, I have a lot going for me as far as things go in this world, and I am very privileged, and I know it, and I really am very grateful. I just said that to me because it was a reality check. So just wanted to touch on that quick. The cats are going ballistic here. Why are you brats? They're just brats. They can't help themselves. So I'm just going to touch on this week's topic, which is... Okay, so this week's topic is gendered languages. Do you speak a language other than English? If so, how do you deal with gender in this language? Are there gender-neutral options? Do you try and find a gender-neutral option, or just pick the masculine or feminine form? So the first answer is, do you speak a language other than English? Not really. I'm Slovak by... my grandparents, all four of my grandparents were from Slovakia. I was raised in a house with my paternal grandmother, who spoke very little English. So my parents spoke Slovak to her, and as a result, I learned some very bad. I will just add that many years later, I ended up going out with a Slovak guy from Slovakia, and I was right proud of myself because I thought, oh, I can speak to Slovak, no problem. And apparently, I have my family is very poor, I guess. They came from the poor part of Slovakia. They were kind of gypsies. They were uneducated. And the kind of Slovak I learned was a very bastardized form of the language. So when I was speaking to him, I was, you know, at the time, it's kind of a funny story, because I used to live in the Canadian Arctic in a town called Iqaluit, Nunavut. And one of the parts of Iqaluit that's kind of interesting is a lot of the population of that town is from Newfoundland in Canada. And Newfoundlanders have a very interesting way of speaking. It's extreme dialect, and a lot of it is what would be considered bad grammar. It's very cute when you hear it, but I should probably post a link to a Newfoundland. There's a guy I know who has a Newfoundland video that's very funny, so I will try and post a link to a Newfoundland accent to give you an idea of what it sounds like. Anyway, all of our roommates were Newfie, and I remember I said to me, my Slovak boyfriend, he said, "You speak Slovak Newfie," because my grammar was so bad. So here's me thinking I know what I'm doing. I know just a few phrases. I'm also Canadian, which means I had to take French from grades 5 through 9. So just for 4 years. I work with a Frenchman from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and I've asked him to speak French with me at work because I really want to learn properly. I like to think I know how to speak French. I don't. Similarly, I have a friend who's French Canadian who lives who hails from north of Montreal, Quebec, and I stayed with him one night. I went to pick him up to move him back to Ontario, and I stayed overnight in his mother's home, and she doesn't speak a word of English. And let me rephrase that. Her English is about as bad as my French is bad, so we were really having a hard time communicating with one another. And it was simple, like, où est la salle de bain? Like, it was pathetic. It was really pathetic. On the way home, Martin and I had a very interesting conversation about the articles in French. La salle de bain, the bathroom, is female. And so, there's a lot of... And we were having this big argument about it, because I remember saying to him, that's one thing that pisses me off about French. And he kept saying to me, French is such a beautiful language, you don't know because you don't speak it, you don't understand. And I said, I get it. And he was even trying to explain to me that, and he's French Canadian, so he has a thick accent. And he was trying to find the English words to express to me that English is an ugly language. Very bleh, bleh, like he said, it's ugly. Like, there's things you can say in French that are beautiful, just beautiful ways of phrasing things that are almost like poetry, whereas English is crass and gruff. And I get that, and I appreciated that, and I was embarrassed that I couldn't speak it. But I was still annoyed with the whole gendered article thing. And he was trying to explain to me, he said, and when you're growing up French, you don't have to stop and think about it. You just learn it. It's like, I have very good, I'm probably going to make a fool out of myself after I say this. I have very good written English grammar. I'm very good at, oh, Eli's going to, no, I know, okay, just ignore him. Baby, what? Just put that down. Eli doesn't, Eli's just a bit noisy. I like to think my grammar is very good, but I never learned grammar in school. In the 70s and 80s when I went to school, they didn't teach it. So I don't know, I just picked it up from reading maybe. I don't know why certain things sound right and certain things don't. I just know they are right or they are wrong, and I don't know how I know that. And Martin assured me that you know what an article is for a noun because you've spoken it your whole life. You just sort of know these things. Okay, so that was French, which I don't know very well, but I know a little bit because you can't be Canadian and not know some. It's on the back. In fact, I was just eating this, which are baguettes, which is funny because that is a French word, but forget that. They're crispy baguettes, but right underneath it says croustillants. I don't even know. All packaging in Canada has French and English on it. Let's see. Like batteries here, it says right in the corner, 5 more batteries de plus pile. I'm just guessing. Everything in Canada has French writing on it, so you get to see it written a lot. Okay, so flash forward one more quick story about someone else I know who speaks a foreign language. I used to sit beside a woman, and I have a lot of Chinese friends in southern Ontario where I live, and I used to live in Toronto, which is ground zero for immigration in Canada. And Canada is what they call we call ourselves a cultural mosaic versus the American style melting pot. So Canada is kind of known for encouraging multiculturalism. That's a real core value of Canada. And we encourage all new immigrants to maintain their language, maintain their culture. So most Canadians who come from another language, not only do they speak that language, but they'll have something like a Chinatown in their community. There's a lot of mosques. There's a lot of, my mother goes to church in Spanish. Sometimes there's a Spanish community near where she lives, and she just likes to go to church, and she doesn't care what language it's in. She likes the music. She thinks Spanish music is beautiful. So there's a lot of different languages being spoken in and around southern Ontario. So I was working with a colleague who was Chinese, who hailed from China. And he used to tell me, he used to refer to his wife. Eli, hang on, he's going. Okay, the video cut out there for a minute, so I'm going to try and pick up where I left off. I think I was talking about my friend Philip at work, the Chinese guy who would sometimes talk about his wife. And he would say things like, my wife made whatever curry. We used to eat curry a lot together, and he would say, "Oh, my wife made curry last night," or "He made curry last night," and he'd refer to his wife as he, or sometimes to his son as she, and I thought it was adorable because I think gender-neutral languages are just the cat's meow. Speaking of which, Eli's going to start meowing in a minute. Guys at work would try sometimes to correct him. They would say, "Oh, you're married to a man," and of course, I don't think he just even really knew what he was saying. In fact, I know he didn't. Obviously, it just to him. I guess there's a pronoun that means that person, and he sometimes would say he. Apparently, there is no equivalent in China. I think he spoke Cantonese. No, he spoke Mandarin. I should know this, and I don't. Philip died in 2007. So I miss him very much. Anyway, he was kind of one person who taught me a lot about Chinese culture. So I've covered French, Slovak, English, and Chinese, which are the languages that I am most familiar with. With Canada being such a melting pot, you know, I am exposed to all kinds of languages all the time. It really is, you know, there is not a day that goes by that you don't pass someone on the street speaking a foreign language to someone else. And I live in a medium-sized city. I don't even live in Toronto. Actually, now I live in a little teensy-weensy town that's all white bread, but I go to the medium-sized city every day to work. And very multicultural, extremely multicultural, hearing languages all the time. I always love talking to people who speak different languages and come from different cultures. I love talking gender with them. My current colleague, the French fellow from Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, it's an African nation that was ruled by Belgium. So he learned how to speak English, get this, in India. And he went to school in India. So he speaks English kind of with like a British Indian accent. And he's a black man, a black French man. Anyway, catch you guys next week. See you later. Bye-bye.